This is Southern Whisper. I hope you all are doing well tonight. I'm not sure when this video will be uploaded, but as soon as I'm done recording, I will start uploading it, and hopefully in the next couple hours you'll be able to see it. But since this video wasn't planned, I just started thinking about everything that I have to do tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make a video or not. And you guys deserve a video. So, tonight, we're just going to relax, chill out, while I read from this book. So this is going to be a reading video. I started reading this book and I thought to myself this would be the perfect book to read on my channel. So, we are going to read Coal Miner's Daughter by Loretta Lynn. I am a big fan of Loretta Lynn. By the way, my nails probably look like crap. I need to get some more nail polish tomorrow. And I've got scuff marks on my fingers from hanging up clothes all day. So I'm sorry about that too. I'm going to try to keep my hands down here so you guys can't see them. Okay. I love Loretta Lynn. I love Coal Miner's Daughter, the song and the movie. So let's get started. Okay, Chapter 1, Butcher Holler. Why was born a coal miner's daughter in a cabin on a hill in Butcher Holler. We were poor, but we had a coal miner's daughter by Loretta Lynn. Most people know that much about me because those are the first, so it's Chapter 1, Butcher Holler. Most people know that much about me because those are the first words of my biggest song. I open my show with it because I know people are going to request it until I sing it. I wrote it myself, 9 verses, and it broke my heart when I had to cut 3 verses out because it was too long. I could have written 1,000 more verses. I've gotten so many memories of Butcher Holler. To me, that place is the most important part of my life. My fans and writers are always making a big deal about me acting natural right from the country. That's because I come from Butcher Holler, Kentucky, and I never forgot it. I'm always making Butcher Holler sound like the most backward part of the United States. And I think maybe it is. I've traveled all over this country, down south and out west, and I ain't never seen anything like it. And I ain't making fun of it because I'm the most backward person you ever saw. I never knew where babies came from until it happened to me. This might give you an idea of how backward we are, but first, to appreciate this story, you've got to know that in Eastern Kentucky we say the word press instead of closet. Anyway, one of my best friends is Dr. John Turner, who took care of me when I was younger. Doc swears he saw this patient standing in front of the hospital elevator looking confused. Doc asked him what was the matter, and the patient said, "Doc, I just seen a nurse getting into that press, and when the door opened, she was gone." things are changing now with television and better roads and stuff. I've got relatives living up in Butcher Holler who have never been further than Paintsville, 10 miles away in their lives. They're really beautiful people in their own way. Everybody else is worrying about the energy crisis and talking about getting back to the simple things. My people are already there. If we run out of energy, my relatives know how to patch their houses and grow gardens. So they're going to have the last laugh on everybody. Let me explain where Butcher Holler is. You take any place in the United States today, and they've got an interstate highway, right? Well, you get on one of them interstates and drive to Huntington, West Virginia, which is already in pretty hilly country, but you ain't seen nothing yet. You get off Interstate 64 and head south along Highway 23 in Kentucky. That's a good 3-lane highway going past some nice farms and factories and mobile homes. You drive for about an hour and a half until you get to Paintsville, which has around 4,000 people. Paintsville may not look too big to outsiders, but in Johnson County is the biggest thing going. That's the first place I ever saw a toilet with running water. Just before I got married, I went to the bus station to go to the bathroom, but when I sat down in the seat, the toilet flushed automatically. I got so scared I was going to get flushed down. I ran out there and waited until we found a good old outhouse. When I was a little girl, my big city was Van Leer, which was 5 miles away, a coal camp for the Consolidated Coal Company with rows of wooden houses they rent to the miners. There must have been 10,000 people living around Van Leer in the good times. The company had a post office and company stores where you paid for your things in scrip. If you went to debt, you owed your soul to the company store, just like the song says. The company also had a recreational hall where they showed movies. People made coal camps sound like slavery, but in a lot of ways it was the best thing ever happened to people, as long as the coal kept running. Before I was born, Van Leer was a boom town. The company kept their houses painted. The foremen had nice homes up on Silkstocking Row, and the bosses had real beautiful homes. Often once I was a row of houses called, I'm not going to say this word, it's different times, in Holler, where the African American miners lived. They worked in the mines with the whites, but they had to live all by themselves. I'm sure there was prejudice in the coal camps, but my family grew up so high in the hollers we never knew about it. My daddy was colorblind 2 ways. About the only color he could see real good was yellow, and I have trouble telling red from orange myself. But we were also colorblind about people. It's like in 1972 when I was up for the award for Best Female Singer on national television, and Charley Pride was going to present the award. People warned me not to kiss Charley in case I won, because it would hurt my popularity with country fans. I heard that one girl singer got canceled out down south after giving a little peck to a black friend on television. Well, Charley Pride is one of my favorite people in country music, and I got so mad that when I won, I made sure I gave him a big old hug and a kiss right on camera. You know what? Nobody canceled on me. If they had, fine. I'd have gone home to my babies and canned some string beans and the heck with them all. But we didn't know about prejudice in Butcher Holler. We didn't know much about anything. Even Van Leer was another world to us. We would go down there about once a month and sometimes see a Tarzan movie on one of the Roy watches. cereals. We always went in the daytime because coming back there weren't any cars or roads or electricity for lights in Butcher Holler. I remember going into Van Leer before Christmas when I was around 12. It was at night, and their decorations were all lit up. It was the first time I really remember seeing electric lights. I sure was impressed. My home was maybe 4 miles further up the mountains from Van Leer. The road was paved up to the mines, then it was topped with just coal slag, Red Dog, we called it, that ran from the upper company store to the one-room schoolhouse. Then there was just a dirt path leading alongside the creek in the narrow space between two ridges. As you walked up the hollow, the path got steeper and steeper, with trees growing on both sides of you. You had this feeling of being all wrapped up in the trees and hills, real secure-like. If you'd stop walking and just listen, you could hear a couple kids playing outside, or maybe some birds in the trees. I used to love going out of doors at night and listening to the whippoorwills. Maybe it was a Cherokee in me, but I loved being outside. In the summertime, we'd hold lightning buds. That's our word for fireflies on our fingers and pretend they were diamond rings. Or we'd just sit there in the holler and it would be perfectly quiet. Holler kids were so bashful that they run and hide if they had company coming. I was still bashful after I was married and didn't make friends easily. The only way my husband could get me out of it was to tell me I was ignorant. See, he traveled outside the mountains. He'd been around. We weren't really ignorant, just shy. If we'd see a stranger coming up the holler, somebody in the bottom of the house would shout, "Stranger coming up." If the stranger asked you questions, you'd just climb up until you knew his business. Lots of times they'd send revenue officers looking for moonshine still up in the mountains. Us kids will look at 'em dumb-like and say, "Ain't nothing up here, mister." And all the time, our uncles were making moonshine right up on the ridge. Most of the people were Irish, not the Catholic kind, the other kind, from families that kept moving west until they finally settled in the hills. There wasn't nobody to take taxes from them or make them go to church if they didn't want to. So they grew into their own independent ways. They raised chickens and hogs, corn and berries. They didn't have no papers or listen to the news. The biggest thing that ever happened in Butcher Holler was after World War II when a pilot bailed out of his army plane and it crashed up on the ridge. You could hear bullets going off in the fire for days. The first time a car ever came up the path was when Doolittle came a-courting in his Jeep. Now, they've got the dirt path widened so two-wheel drive cars can get up, but it's about the same as ever. A few men work in the mines, and the women go into Paintsville for their food stamps and stuff, but it's still country. I was up there last year, and my Uncle Cornman was telling me about the big shootout they just had. Seems one of his cousins fired at Hawk. Another cousin down the holler heard the shot, and just for meanness he answered the shot. Suddenly there were two grown men, cousins to each other, shooting at their sounds. They were both behind trees, firing away until they got tired of it and quit. Didn't hurt nothing, but they could have. That's just the way we are. We still lend our old house out to relatives. They keep a guest book for my fans to sign. There's been people from almost every state in the nation, which ain't easy because there aren't any signs marking Butcher Holler. You've just got to ask directions if you can find anybody to ask. The old house is falling apart now. The floor's sagging and stuff. But they still got my old bed and other furniture, and someday I'm going to put all in the museum I'm building on the ranch. My folks don't make a big fuss over me at Butcher Holler. They knew me when I was wearing flour sacks, so I ain't got no big deal to them. I can go back there and we'll talk just the same way we always did. tell snake stories and ghost stories, believing about half of it. Somebody wrote a story saying I should pay to have the road paved so people can drive up easier. I won't do it, and I'll tell you why. The only reason people ever heard of Butcher Holler was because I put it on the map. It's just a little place. If my daddy were alive today, he'd say I shouldn't pave it. He'd know better. I waded out of the mud when I left Butcher Holler, and when I go back to visit, I wade through the mud again. They don't need no pavement. We didn't even have cars when I was living there. When I was born, there was no sense of going to the hospital. We couldn't afford it anyway, not with the depression going on. So we had this old woman, old Aunt Harriet, around 80 years old, come to deliver me. She was almost blind, Mommy said, and she had to feel with her fingers where to cut the cord. Daddy had to sell our milk cow, old Goldie, to pay $35 to old Aunt Harriet, so she stayed 2 weeks with Mommy. After I was born, Mommy put me in the crib in the corner. We just had this one-room cabin they made from logs, with the cracks filled with moss and clay. The wind used to whistle in so bad, Mommy would paper the walls with pages from her Sears and Rosebud catalog and movie magazines. I remember I could see pictures of Hitler, Clark Gable, and that Russian man, Stalin, is that his name? And a picture of a beautiful woman with earphones on her head, a telephone operator. I never forgot how pretty she looked. Mommy never went to the movies, but she always liked pictures of Loretta Young and Claudette Colbert. Right over my crib, she pasted pictures of them 2 stars. That's how I got my name. Lots of times I wonder if I would have made it in country music if I was named Claudette. When I was born, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president for several years. That's the closest I'm going to come to telling my age in this book, so don't go looking for it. I'm trying to make a living singing songs. I don't need nobody out there saying she don't look bad considering she's such and such years old. One time on television, somebody asked my age, and I said it was none of his business unless he was selling insurance or taking the census. Then he asked me what year I was born in, and I told him. Afterward, my husband said I must be the dumbest person in the whole United States. Well, I may be dumb, but I ain't stupid, at least not anymore. Now I've learned not to give away my age. I was born on April 14th, which I think is important because I believe in horoscopes. I was born under the sign of the Ram, which means I'm headstrong, don't like people tell me what to do. That's the truth. I listen to them, but if they're wrong, I just do what I think is right. Mommy says I started to walk and talk around 11 months old because I took sick. I had an ear infection called mastoiditis. The only way they could cure it was by drilling holes in my head to clean out the infection. They'd done this every day, then put cotton right into the holes. I had curly blonde hair up until that time, but they cut off all them curls so they could fix the infection. Mommy couldn't afford to keep me in the hospital overnight, so every day she walked with me the 10 miles to Golden Rule Hospital in Painesville so they could scrape the infection. I've still got the scars from the drilling around my ears, which is why I wear my hair so long. It got so bad that people didn't think I was going to live. Mommy got a letter from a woman a few years that said, "Whatever happened to that little girl that was going to die?" Mommy wrote back and said that little girl is still alive today, but I didn't start walking again until I was 4 years old. I must have stayed in bed for years, but I don't remember none of it. I shut it all out, I guess. I avoid going back through places where there's too much poverty. I wouldn't take nothing from the memories of what I went through, but I don't want to go back to it. I remember being hungry too much. I think maybe it's worse today because people know they're poor from watching television news and stuff. Back then, we didn't know we were poor, and people were more proud then. It It bothers me to go back to Kentucky and see folks on welfare today because I know how hard my daddy worked to keep us alive during the Depression. Being poor really helped me. The country is making a big mistake by not teaching kids how to cook and raise a garden and build fires. It's like the Indian taught the white man how to survive. Do you think our kids could take an ear of corn and beat it up fine and make bread? I've done it, and I could do it again. So that was chapter 1 of Coal Miner's Daughter. Anyways, you guys, yeah, I am definitely not going to make it to 12 yet. I already felt the sleeping medicine hit me. That sucks, man. I wish I would have remembered. It's okay though. But I love you guys, and I will be talking to you soon.